My name is Jamil Moledina. I'm our game strategic lead for Google Play. And so what that means is that I manage this outreach and support for key segments on the store. And that ranges from AAA games to indies and influencers, as well as emergent platforms, nascent platforms for Google. In this particular instance, that refers to Daydream, our high-performance mobile VR platform. So just wanted to give you guys a snapshot of what we'll be talking about today. Just a quick agenda. I want to talk about how Google's objective here is to provide something for everyone. Talk a little bit about what's going on in terms of growth that we observe, because I think there's a lot of conventional wisdom suggesting that growth is slowing down, and we have some information to the contrary. What we're doing with indie developers, how we're converting what we have been doing, a lot of talking at events like this, and converting that into action, as well as a view into how we're programming the curated launch of Daydream. So help everyone kind of see how they might fit into that strategy, and lastly, exactly how we can work together. I mean, it's one thing to do a talk from a podium, it's quite another to get off the stage and actually work with you guys. So how does that happen? So starting with something for everyone. I mentioned that there's this sense, perhaps, you see it in the news, mobile is mature is a phrase that comes up with some regularity. And from our standpoint, that's a relatively superficial position to take, because perhaps that is an impression that comes when you're looking at the entire store in aggregate, when you're looking at particular genres that are very strong on the store. People know to get certain types of games on mobile stores. At the same time, from our point of view, we're aiming to create something for everyone. And from our standpoint, that is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution. It's not the right direction from our point of view to provide just one type of game or a couple of types of games. Instead, what we see and what we observe and what we intend to provide is something that actually suits the sensibilities of all kinds of different people that participate in our ecosystem. One of the things to keep in mind is that Google Play is the largest digital store for content. We've distributed over 65 billion apps and games in the last year. So there's a massive potential to provide something for everyone. So in terms of that growth, what I'd like to kind of reference here is that it might look like calm waters above, but we see so much rich growth happening in particular segments on the store. Now, we have our own internal segmentation that is admittedly, has some fuzzy lines to it. But how we think about the world is very much in the way that the rest of the world thinks about itself. Here's some research from Newzoo, a research company, that shows what their projection is for all of 2016 in terms of global games market revenue. And you see that console, PC, and mobile all represent a fairly even piece of the pie. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that these are not mutually exclusive categories. We have console developers, publishers like EA, we have PC developer publishers like Blizzard that are bringing their content to Google Play. And they're doing it in a way that is very significant to their bottom line. It's not a token transition, it's a significant effort. And here's a bit of research that I'd like to share with all of you today. Google typically does not actually share our internal information, but we got specific permission to share this bit of data with all of you, where we are seeing over 50% growth year on year in consumer spend on those AAA games and indie games on Google Play. Now, AAA games we loosely define as those companies that see their primary revenue coming from PC and console. In indies, we loosely define as small groups focused on art and innovation. And we have subdivided categorization from there, but for the most part, we're seeing this in a fairly consistent fashion across all regions. So from that point of view, we see that mobile is far from mature, but is actually a very rising growth platform. Now, one of those partners I just mentioned, Blizzard, provides Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft on Google Play. This is a very interesting title because it comes with a community built in. It comes with the Warcraft community. It comes with people that were playing the PC version of this game until it came to mobile. And the approach that the developers took was something that was focused on that community. Now take a moment to absorb this quote from Jason Chase. He's the head of Hearthstone, both in terms of creative and its business. It's the community that he's excited about. It wasn't necessarily what is the most clever way that we can take advantage of some sort of a gap. What kind of game do we think is going to make a lot of money here? They were focused on what can we do to delight this particular community. They created something that was a very strong fit between that community and the brand that loves World of Warcraft and the Blizzard IPs, and a type of game that would work on mobile. Similarly, I mentioned EA. They have a game on our store, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Certainly there have been lots of Star Wars games, but this is one of our top grossing games on the store. It's also one of our most highly rated games on the store. So how does this Star Wars game thrive when all the rest are doing okay? Well, one of the things that is, again, interesting about how these developers approach this segment has to do with community. Here is the executive producer of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, John Solera. How many of you collected Star Wars action figures when you were kids? How many of you played them in doing funny battles with unlikely allies against other weirdly put together teams? This is great. Thank you. In case you're wondering, this was most of the audience, for those of you on watching this on video. This is how so many people relate to Star Wars. They play with the action figures and they do weird things with them. And this is a game that captures that wonderful human interaction, as opposed to, what kind of genre would be ideal. I mean, sort of a lot of that thinking goes into the best games on our store. But this sort of attention to trying to capture what that natural human interaction is takes it over the top and makes it a very successful game on our store. This is something that we think about a lot, is not necessarily what is the cleverest combination of factors, but where does the IP fit like a glove with the game? Where does it fit in a way that already makes sense of the way that people play with games or people interact with the world in a natural fashion? I think it goes without saying that this game does this as well. This Pokemon Go is a huge phenomenon worldwide. You don't need me to be a person on stage saying something like that. But what is also very interesting is that there's a similar approach taking place. This is John Hanke, CEO of Niantic Inc., creators of Pokemon Go from the development side. The game's cornerstones are social activity. There's a lot of people, I think, that are going to jump on, hey, AR is the next big thing. And at Google, we firmly believe in AR, especially through our Tango platform. The additional thing to keep in mind, though, is that this was a 20-year journey to get here, from Google Maps to Ingress to Pokemon Go. And this was a connection between an IP, a Game Boy game, that has you out in the world collecting Pokemon, battling them, evolving them. And finally, there's a platform that allows that IP to come to life in a vibrant, engrossing fashion. And it's something that ignites a lot of people around the world. And the game is still rolling out, but I think we can see this continuing to hit that nerve of a natural human behavior, going out, visiting stores and restaurants, and going out to the park and playing with your pets and your friends and getting out there into the real world. Going out to the pier and finding water-based Pokemon. It's an amazing way to connect with other people. So let's switch gears a moment here. Let's talk a little bit also about indies, about how indies are able to kind of capture that natural human interaction. One thing that we've done to better support indies is offer Indie Corner, which is a dedicated destination on Google Play. This is something we announced at GDC, and there is a dramatic increase in how people are engaging with indies on Google Play as a result of this. So as people learn where they can find their content, they understand that that is where they can get it on Google Play. Fans of indie games, Everyone who is fans of Pokemon, of Star Wars, of Blizzard, of indie games are carrying their phone around with them. There's an opportunity here to ignite that audience in a way that makes sense for them. So this gives you a little bit more detail into what the content looks like in this collection. It is a curated collection. Definitely check it out. The next thing that we did last week is that we announced our Indie Games Festival. This is a way for developers, indie developers, to get what they actually want in a marketing and discovery campaign. This is how indies actually function. I mean, it's something that I'm surprised, we haven't done yet in a substantial way, but being able to directly connect with an audience, network with that audience, get users into the game, and have another outlet of discovery. These are the key pain points for indies anyway. And so we felt it was incumbent upon us to use the reach that Google has to bring a lot of indie fans together to make this happen. This event, the statistics on this are here. I am going to ask you to take a picture if you want to. The submission link at the bottom is there for if you're an indie developer or you know any indie developers that might be interested in participating. The event is September 24th. We have an admittedly arbitrary set of guidelines in terms of how we define an indie, meaning that we're locking it to 15 full-time people at the company. But we think this helps at least get the spirit of what we're aiming for. So the next thing I want to touch on is VR. So AAAs and indies are actually very well suited to VR. Here is another growth opportunity for everyone on the platform, including those that are well established in mobile. This gives you a sense of where we've been and why we think Daydream will be successful, because Cardboard was successful. It successfully presented VR for everyone through a very accessible smartphone interface. Now, Daydream is coming this fall, and it consists of these 4 primary pillars. There's Daydream-ready smartphones, so the very high-fidelity, high-end smartphones from our top OEM partners. A VR platform built on Android N, which a lot of what's going on in Android N is actually to enable VR mode. Content is a key part of that. So engaging VR experiences from Google and as well as key partners, both from the AAA space and indies. And what's interesting there is that this store is highly curated. I'll touch on that in a little bit as well. And then finally, a VR viewer and controller. So this controller ships with the headset. It is always part of your experience, because for us, input, having that natural human interaction with this virtual world. I mean, it's so great to create a virtual world, but it's even better if you can interact with it in a way that feels natural to you. So this gives you a snapshot of what that environment looks like. And you see these discovery windows up front. And I'd like to give you a quick look into what that looks like. This is a closer look at what our headset and controller look like. The controller directly has a lot of input to it. It's not very intimidating if you just look at it. It's just got a couple of buttons, but there's actually a lot of input going on at once, including a 3DoF tracking. Yeah, definitely get a shot of that if you're focused on developing for VR. Clearly, there's a lot to enjoy in what we're doing with Daydream, but the thing that really I think is directly relevant from the point of view of discovery is those discovery windows. In mobile, we have these little postage stamp size picture frames to kind of figure out how great a game is. Very little information provided. However, with these discovery windows, you are kind of looking into the virtual world that you're about to download. So it helps people identify what it is that they're getting into. So these are the game developers that we announced at Google I/O. As you can see, there's a mix of AAA game developers, indies, and mobile major partners as well. How we are actually building this portfolio, we are sharing with you for the first time today. Definitely, yeah, get a snapshot of this one. So in terms of the content, every Google platform is an open platform. However, for the launch of Daydream, it will be a highly curated store. So you're going to want to be featured in the front of this store. Now, what we're looking for in that content, again, are experiences that combine that natural human interface with the world with this virtual reality. So we're looking for accessibility, games that you can pick up and play and understand and get into for people of all ages. Games that are broadly appealing, whether it's a strong brand that already exists or you've created a really cute character that hits on a lot of hot buttons. But the thing that separates what we're trying to do with Daydream from what we did with Cardboard, and in fact with a lot of existing VR platforms, is that, and I'm kind of going into the next point here, is that there's a lot that you can download that feels like a demo, that feels like a roller coaster ride that you enjoy for a few minutes and then you put down. For Daydream, our intent is to create something that is highly engaging, habit-forming, if you will, where you're coming back to the platform on a repeating basis. This is why we think starting with a mobile platform, with a mobile developer audience, is a successful direction, because mobile developers know how to bring players back on an ongoing basis. From a pragmatic standpoint, of course, we're looking for unique use of our controller. This is something that is important because I don't know if you've tried to use VR systems that don't have an input system that you can interact with, but it kind of breaks the illusion. So for us, we feel this is important. We support all business models. Certainly, we're seeing a lot of premium in VR, but of course, episodic and in-app purchase-based models have worked for a lot of our existing partners in the past. So on that note, there's one last slide to take a picture of. The first is our opt-in for consideration if you're looking to be featured on Google Play. So click on that and fill out the form. People on our team review everything that comes in, and they'll reach out to you if there's anything strong that they see there's something we can do together. The next link is for Daydream. So if you have a VR game that you think is a good fit for our platform, click on that and fill out that form. And again, we are reviewing everything that comes in and look forward to having that conversation with you. Thank you very much. I'll take questions in the hallway.